Hello and welcome back to MentalMMA.com. My name again is James McNeil. This is your information source for the mental game of mixed martial arts. This is a special edition onto the Emotionally Intelligent Fighter, and I want to give credit to Georges St-Pierre, GSP, who has given me some of the content that I'm going to be sharing with you right now. He may have not done it intentionally. He didn't speak with me personally on this. We have met, but he didn't talk to me about this. This is from his interviews and from what he's been doing in the cage. But this is, I believe, a very important message for those of you who are mixed martial artists, and for those who are trainers or cornermen, and for those of us who are interested in the sport. This will help us understand the process mentally and emotionally. Also, for those who are gamblers, if you're into that, this may help you in guesstimating where a fighter's head is at. Okay, so the title of this talk is Fear, Focus, and Freedom. When GSP, Georges St-Pierre, was preparing to fight, I believe it was Dan Hardy, in the special, the television special leading up to it, in an interview, he said, I have fear. I'm afraid of embarrassing myself in front of all these people, of losing. And so he said, no. He says, I respect my opponent and I have fear. Many fighters have talked about fear. I don't think any have spoken so openly, especially someone who is so central to the sport as Georges St-Pierre. But I wanted to clarify, he's not afraid of being hit. He's not afraid of the other fighter, as in he doesn't think he can do it. It's not a lack of self-belief. It is a fear of the possibility of not preparing sufficiently, not planning sufficiently, not being ready sufficiently. And so he uses that as a fuel in preparation. So fear is in the prep phase. So while a person is in training, in their training camp, preparing for a fight, fear or anger or any negative emotion that might help push a fighter through all the discipline required, the sweat, blood, sweat, and tears required to put themselves into peak physical condition. GSP, in another interview long ago, said that he believes fighting is 90% mental and only 10% physical. But he says training is 90% physical and only 10% mental. And so I want you to think about as being two distinct phases with a transition period called focus. So getting back to the training phase, fear, anger, any of these, what we might call negative emotions, can be used, whatever the fighter needs, to motivate them to push and push and push and push and push, because it's primarily a physical activity, and negative emotion may be helpful to stimulate that extra effort. So fear or anger or whatever in training is fine. So fear or anger in the prep phase, fine. But then there's a window between training and fighting. There's a window, and this is a very important window, where you want to begin the mental process of focusing. Or not begin, but complete the process called focusing. So you shift from the almost purely physical activity of training and transition into now the mental game. Begin to play out every single possibility. Imagine going down for the leg, but keeping the hand up for the overhand right, and physically thinking through every single possibility and thinking through all the variations of what could happen and how you're going to manage everything and anything, so that in the real fight, nothing is a surprise. You've imagined every possibility and how you will manage that, even with the physiological triggers. If we go into the visioning and affirmations video, you'll see that preparing for the mental game is actually very valuable, that your brain, once it's imagined something, has already done it. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between something vividly imagined and something that's real. So when you walk into the cage, when a fighter walks into the cage, it's not the first time. When that person throws that overhand right, even though it's their first meeting, it's not the first time in their brain. They've seen that punch coming 100 times. They've imagined it. And so in this phase between training and fighting is the focus phase, where everything now goes into the mental, and we want to make sure, and everyone around the fighters should protect their mind and their heart from anything that could be a distraction. Of course, weight cutting is happening, which could provoke all kinds of emotional challenges. Weight cut, mentally rehearsing, All of this is in that phase. So we transition from the brute force kind of effort of training now into the mental focusing phase, where we want to remove distractions and play out every possibility and see how to best manage them. That's focus. So very mental. We go from very physical to very mental. Now, when we go into the cage, this is where I'm going to strongly encourage freedom. There's a distinction between, there's kind of two physiological states for fighting. They may appear similar on the outside. A very intense state is almost always required for a great performance. But you'll notice someone like Anderson Silva and people like Chuck Liddell, great strikers, you'll notice that they're far more relaxed. They're shaking off their limbs. They're looking like there's nothing going on here. This is all just fun. And they're releasing so that they can have quick movements without tension. They want to release all tension in their physical body so that they can snap a jab, snap a punch, faster with no resistant muscles. One of the things that if the body is tense, you've got muscles going in both directions. Some muscles are trying to control the fist while others are trying to push the fist out there. And you're fighting yourself if you're trying to be a quick striker, unless you're very relaxed. If you're very relaxed, just the muscles going forward are the ones working. The other ones are relaxed. You're much faster, much crisper, with far more snap, far more bite, far more power. So for a striker especially, you want total freedom, total relaxation. For those who are more of the muscle fighters, often wrestlers and big bomb throwers, they stay tense. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that if you want to be faster and have more bite on the punch, you'll want to have as much freedom from physical tension as possible. So going into the phase, you want to then release all of that mental game of prep. You want to release all of the anger or fear. Hopefully that's long gone. And you want to move into that cage now having fun, letting it all hang out, like letting it happen now. Now I'm only in the moment. I'm not thinking about the future. I'm not thinking about the past. I'm not thinking about what's happening outside of this cage. I am in this moment 100%. I am now free physically and emotionally to be present. And so let me just restate that again. So in the prep phase, the training phase, fear, anger, whatever, to push through the physical demands. The transition phase would be a focusing phase, totally focusing on every possibility while going through the realities of weight cut and so on, and having to deal with some of the media things, but whenever possible, minimizing all of that. And total mental focus, going from the physical to the mental focus. And then in entering the cage, you now release it. And in just about any sport, they'll tell you, at any level, really, especially at the top levels, you can only mentally focus on a couple of things. If you watch, I was just watching a replay of Georges St. Pierre's fight against Josh Koscheck, the second fight that they've had. And in that fight, Greg Jackson was simply saying, all the way in, all the way out. And he was just talking about the gap, minding the gap between the fighters. You stay out of range, you go into range, strike, and get back out of range. You have to go all the way in to hit him. You have to get all the way back out so he can't hit you. And that's all he talks about. He didn't talk about, and watch your takedowns and put your left foot forward, and you have to tilt your head a little bit and keep your shoulders up. And he didn't give him 100 things to think about. All the way in, all the way out. When you're in the cage, when you're in performing mode, you want to be as free as possible with only a couple of things that you're maintaining focus on. Other than that, you let it happen. So hopefully this has been helpful. There's fear, focus, freedom. Hopefully that was helpful. Again, this is James McNeil, Mixed Martial Arts, for Mixed Martial Arts, the mental game of Mixed Martial Arts here at Mental MMA. Hopefully we can be of service in the future. Thanks so much. Talk soon.